The budget that the House sent over, looks like, do you think it's balanced?
We're going to take a long, hard look at it, and we're going to do everything we can to close the $800 million gap that we all agreed is going to be there for the next biennium.
Has your timeline changed at all in terms of reporting that out? I think the draft schedule is like, I think June 19th maybe.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why our timeline would have changed, no. Go ahead.
The House says they took care of about $630 million worth of that gap. Are you able to account for that in the numbers you're looking at?
We're going to have testimony in Finance Committee today, and we'll see where things add up. I think there are some questions about the MCO change and whether that actually leads to savings. Director Moody testified last week that it does not. We'll see. We're going to have a robust committee process. We're going to dig into the issues and hear testimony from the administration, and we'll see what the numbers are. But you can rest assured that the Senate is focused on making sure that if there is a gap, and again, we anticipate an $800 million gap at a minimum, that we're going to close it.
Are you concerned that maybe the House has taken the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, and where are you going to go from there?
I'm not really worried about what chamber is doing what parts. I think we're all focused on the same thing, which is a final product that is balanced and that gets the state where it needs to be. And I think right now, the Senate's primary focus for the next few weeks is going to be figuring out how we close an $800 million gap and make sure that the final version of the budget gets us at least that far.
So are you saying that you don't think the House closed that $800 million gap?
Well, again, I think if you go back to Jim's question, the House is saying that they closed $630 million. So that's less than $800 million.
Is that frustrating? There are a lot of reports that some members are frustrated that there is still this gap.
Look, I think both chambers are doing what they can to try to close it. We just announced that there was a gap a few weeks ago, and the process has been going on for several months. So they were already, I think, well into their amendment process by the time we saw what the gap was going to be, or were given updated numbers from Tim Keene. So we're going to work forward with the numbers that we have now and do what we need to do.
Is the House's $171 million opioid package, is that immune from any further cuts? Or?
I think we're going to look at every issue independently and ask ourselves whether specific policies make sense and whether they're going to save lives, and that's what we're focused on. As I said last week, we have a number of people in the Senate who are focused on that issue, who are looking into reforms in that area, some which involve additional resources and some which don't. And I think that both the House and the Senate are focused ultimately on the same thing, which is saving as many lives as possible. And we'll spend the next 2 months figuring out how to get there, but I think that we'll come to an agreement by the end of June that serves the state well.
April revenue numbers are down $159 million under estimates. They're now down $774 million for the year. Are you aware, did the $800 million figure that came out in early April, did that account for a miss of that size in April, or is it already looking like you're going to have to go for more than 800?
I believe that Director Keene had anticipated missing in the month of April, and that at least some of that was incorporated into the number that we're already looking at.
At least some?
Now, Director Keene is testifying in Finance Committee this afternoon, and I will make sure that somebody asks him that question. But I spoke with him about that this weekend, and my understanding is he expected April to follow the trends that we've seen in the last few months, and that the $800 million estimate accounted for that.
Will the Senate consider reversing some of the tax cuts in the last couple of years to address this problem long term?
The Senate is not going to raise taxes.
Do you like the idea of what the House did with with Medicaid expansion, basically putting it all on the controlling board?
We'll take a look at that and see how it works. In many ways, it's similar to something that we did in the last budget, which involved, I think, 5% of 1 year. So the Senate version of the last budget actually removed the line item for Medicaid expansion and put that money in the Health and Human Services Fund. The numbers are bigger this time around, and I still have to take a close look at it personally and see what they did with the federal drawdown, because I believe the last budget, the Health and Human Services Fund only included the state share and not the federal money, and I'm not sure where this one ended up. They made a lot of changes in the last 48 hours.
I think this one's
But
just
I've got
the
a lot
state
of weekend
share
reading.
as well. Yeah, 4,000 pages of it.
One more, guys. Are we good? We're good?
All right.